Things that you can do something about are any kind of containers sitting around your property that trap even a little bit of water. It's surprising how many mosquitoes can hatch out of a small bit of water.
The Ready Life, into the country.
Hi, I'm Lisa Meisner.
And I'm Nick, her husband.
Welcome back to the Ready Life podcast, where you'll learn how to become more independent for your basic necessities like water, heat, food, and unfortunately, the power we've all come to depend on. In today's episode, we're going to be talking about something that we deal with in the country, and many folks who live in the country get to deal with these little tiny pests. And I'm not talking about the big one that's moving into my frame in the background, but
Jack.
I'm talking about itty bitty tiny ones that come and leave welts all over your body. Yes, I'm talking about mosquitoes.
It's that time of the year.
It is, and we've been starting to get the mosquitoes. I'm always in a eager rush in the springtime to get our firewood in before the mosquitoes show up, because I don't like going out and getting firewood when the mosquitoes have moved in.
And in some parts of the country, like where I grew up, they were present for a good chunk of the year, but maybe not quite as bad. It seems like here it's really intense for a month or two, and then
it eases up.
And then there's not much of anything the rest of the year. But that month or two can get pretty miserable. So we've kind of run the gamut trying to figure out how to deal with these critters. And we thought we'd share some of what we've learned with you. We don't have a surefire, this is exactly how you're going to get rid of every single mosquito within 100 miles of you kind of thing. But we have found some things that work and some things that don't work. At least here for us. Now, I know there's different mosquitoes in different parts of the country, so, this may or may not work for you, but all we can share.
What we're hoping is that we'll give you a bunch of ideas of ways that you can help at least decrease or make your life more bearable in the realm of mosquitoes, and give you a lot of different ideas to try. And, sometimes when you try a bunch of different things, you'll find some things that really work for you or for your country property. So
that's right. So I guess one of the biggest things that we've found that works, and we've talked to others that have experienced this too, and that's keeping your grass cut. It does seem like mosquitoes hang out in grassy areas to some extent. Of course, the woods, they're always in the woods. And wherever there's water, they breed. I think we all know that, or, that's a fairly common knowledge. But I didn't realize to what extent that they can hang out in grass. And so we would keep our grass mowed, or try to, but some years we'd get really busy, or like right now what we've been experiencing, our grass needs to be cut, but we've been getting rain on whenever we have a chance to cut it. And so it can get kind of challenging if you're in a really rainy spell. The grass gets away from you and that sort of thing. But if there's any way to keep it under control and keep it as short as possible, we've seen results just from keeping it a reasonable height. But I was just talking to a friend yesterday that was telling me that in his experience, he's found that even just cutting it the normal, 3 or 4 inches was not doing it for him. He would still have mosquito issues because they have a bunch of grass around their home. And he said that he found the thing that did it for him was lowering his mower even more, where it was like just 2 or 3 inches, really, really close haircut on that grass. And that seemed to make the difference for him. So that would be one of the top things that we've found is keep your grass cut as short as possible.
In years past, we've also tried those as bug zapper things.
Yeah.
We got,
ultraviolet or whatever.
2 or 3 of them, and put some mosquito attractant in the bottom, and
we got a lot of bugs.
Yeah, we got a lot of bugs.
Not very many mosquitoes.
No, we didn't really. So we've kind of gone through a number of different things that we have tried over the years, and some have really worked and some haven't. I think one of the things that we have noticed over the last 10 or more years of living here is that when we see a lot of swallows and bats in the area, that seems to cut back on the number of mosquitoes. And so for the last couple of years, we've been talking about getting some nesting boxes for the bats and the mosquitoes to really try and encourage, or bats and mosquitoes, the bats and the swallows, so that they would want to hang out here more on our property. We haven't done that yet, but we have definitely noticed an improvement in the mosquito problem when they were hanging around.
And that's on the agenda to create more dwelling places for them.
Yes.
They've found some. This year we've noticed that we have some, which we're very thankful for, but we want to make it really easy for them. So that's on the docket for probably this year, so that next spring we'll be able to snag us some swallows on their migration.
Yes.
Another thing that is a factor in prevention and creating conditions where mosquitoes don't thrive is standing water. And that doesn't necessarily have to be a swampy area. Of course, if you have a swamp, then that's a tough thing to deal with. There may not be a whole lot that you can do about that, because the mosquitoes breed in stagnant water, just water that's just sitting there and warm and that sort of thing. But things that you can do something about are any kind of containers sitting around your property that trap even a little bit of water. It's surprising how many mosquitoes can hatch out of a small bit of water.
Something like an old empty tire that doesn't have, a wheel on it or something. The water can pool inside the tire, and then that's perfect breeding ground for mosquitoes. But like any containers or depressions where water can collect, you want to try and make sure to mitigate all of that, so that way you minimize the amount of larva growth for mosquitoes on your property.
And if you do have some standing water that's not like in a container, but it's a reasonable amount, not a huge swamp, but a fairly, reasonable amount, then one thing you can do is there are some donuts, and the name of them slips my mind right now,
Dunks.
but dunks.
Mosquito dunks.
Mosquito dunks.
I was just looking it up.
And they're like little donuts, and we've used those before. You throw them in the water. They're supposed to be completely non-toxic, biodegradable, all that kind of stuff,
It's
safe
some kind
for
of
water.
A bacteria. It doesn't injure any of the wildlife. It's just that the mosquitoes like to eat up that particular bacteria, and it's not good for them, and it kills them off. And so, especially when they're in the larva stage in the water. So.
Right. So that's an option that could help if there's standing water that you can't control. And so those were kind of all preventative things to try and improve your conditions and that sort of thing. But if in spite of all of that, you still have issues, or maybe you don't do due diligence with all that stuff and the mosquitoes get out of hand, when that happens, it really is hard to get ahead of the curve. Once you get behind the curve, it's really hard to catch back up with just preventative measures, and sometimes it's really helpful to have something to knock them down. And I know we've experienced that, and there have been times where I've almost wanted to call for a commercial fogger to come in, even though I'm very against toxic chemicals and all of that, just for health reasons and all of that. But it's like, this can't be healthy to be getting stuck by thousands of hypodermic needles that have been who knows where, sticking all kinds of animals. And it's like, this is not good for your immune system. So which is worse? But thankfully we found a solution that is kind of an intermediate solution. No, maybe not as effective as commercial fogging, but it's not toxic. It's using all natural ingredients, and it's we found it to work reasonably well. There's actually different brands of this stuff. The one that we use is called Mosquito Magician, but it's a concentrate that has, lemongrass oil, garlic oil, citronella oil, cedarwood oil, rosemary oil, geraniol, and those are basically the oils that it's got in here. But it's a concentrated thing, and you put 4 to 6 ounces of this per gallon of water, and you can spray it. You can have like what do they call those? Like insecticide sprayers, where you pump them up.
Yes.
And you could use something like that if you wanted to. But we have a large enough area, our 3 acres or so, where I use this measuring cup and I measure out the right amount, dump it in here, and we got a backpack fogger. It looks like a leaf blower, and it basically is a leaf blower, except with a water tank on the top and a tube that comes down and injects liquid in at the end of the blower, where it creates a fog. And so when the time comes, pretty soon now, we're still getting some rain, so I'm not going to do it right now, but as soon as we get a period where we're going to have several days of dry weather, I plan to go around and fog all the trees around around our clearing, on the edge of our clearing, and the grass too. And we have found that it knocks them down pretty well for a couple of days at least. Depends upon the weather and how bad they are and that sort of thing. But when they're really, really bad, we can do that and knock them down for a little while. And they claim that if you keep doing it on a regular basis, you build up a residual. We have used this stuff now for 3 or 4 years.
Yeah, I think so.
Last year we didn't use very much. I think we were just so busy. We just, for whatever reason, we ran out. We were about to run out of the stuff.
And I didn't get any more, and we were just
so we didn't use it as heavily.
Crazy.
And the mosquitoes were really, really bad. This year we're hoping it's not as bad, but I want to try and focus on prevention, and so I want to build up a layer of this stuff and do it ahead of time before they get bad, so that we've got a good residual and we kind of create a pocket here that is unfriendly to mosquitoes. I'll be honest, I even go around and spray it on the house. I mean, I just go all over.
Yeah, especially our front door, because we have our beautiful, wonderful German Shepherd, Emma, who runs around and collects clouds of mosquitoes, and then she comes up and loves to sit right on our front porch next to the door. And so then anytime the kids are in and out and like they do all day long, in and out, which is wonderful. That's why we live in the country, is so that our kids can, live outside. But, they're in and out so much, and of course, every time they're in and out, that door opens and closes, and all those mosquitoes, they march their way right into the house. And so when we do that on the porch also and around the door, that really makes the difference. Cuts that down where, Emma then has a space where she can go and get away from the little cloud that follows her. And it's just better for everyone.
For a couple of days at least, 2 or 3 days maybe. It
depends on if it's raining or not.
Yeah, if it rains, then you kind of have to refog after that to see a difference. But anyhow, those are some of the things that we've done. Can you think of anything else?
Yes, we have the mosquito magnet, which...
Oh, that's right, the mosquito magnet. We got that last year.
Last year,
when the mosquitoes were so bad. The mosquito magnet, it's a device that basically burns a little bit of propane to release carbon dioxide and heat, which are supposed to be a couple of things that mosquitoes are attracted to. And then the mosquitoes are supposed to come around, and there's also some mosquito attractant. They're supposed to come around, and then there's a little fan that sucks the mosquitoes into a net, and then they get dehydrated there in the heat from the propane. And it does work. We definitely caught a decent amount of mosquitoes, but it didn't make nearly as much of a difference as I was hoping.
Of course, it could have just been that. It could have just been that the mosquitoes were, really exceptionally bad last year, and we weren't keeping the grass cut and other things too.
But if that was the case, then we should have been getting basketful after basketful.
That's true.
We really only got about 1 basketful in the whole summer.
That's true.
All said and told. Now, granted, one basket full of dehydrated mosquitoes is quite a bit of them, but I've seen videos of people that are getting a basket full every week.
Yeah.
And so I don't know if it's our type of mosquito or the attractant. We used the appropriate kind of attractant, but for whatever reason, I wasn't terribly impressed with it. Now, we'll probably pull it out and use it when we get into the thick of mosquito season, unless it's not too bad. And it went through, let's see, a 5-pound propane tank lasted us, wasn't it 2 or 3 weeks? I think it was something like that, if memory serves me right. And so it wasn't too bad on propane usage, especially if it'll give you some relief. I think where we could have gotten better use out of it is if we had 2 of them and we could put each of them on the edge of the clearing. Because we had it right in the middle of our clearing, which is theoretically what you're supposed to do, but there just weren't as many mosquitoes there to get sucked in. And so the mosquito magnet, we actually recorded some footage of that last year, and so we'll roll that now. So here we are at the end of a cycle. We ran one cycle through. When I say cycle, I'm talking about one tank of propane. We ran one through early in the mosquito season. Didn't catch a lot. It was a little disappointing, but there also weren't a lot of mosquitoes at that point in time either. So then by the time we went through the second tank, which they say it's supposed to last about 3 weeks on a tank of fuel. So after we put the second tank in, we were definitely into the thick of mosquito season. And so we've run that through, and let's see what we've got. So I don't know if you can see, I'll dump it out here in a minute, but it's up to about there with mosquitoes, and these are dehydrated mosquitoes, so there's actually quite a lot of them. Let me grab a plate here. So we will dump these guys out. And there's still more. That's a lot of mosquitoes. That is very satisfying. Yes, I would have liked to have seen this whole thing full of mosquitoes because we sure had a lot of them. But still, each one of these, my understanding is that this attracts the females, and the females are the ones that can, of course, reproduce and make the mosquito problem just increase exponentially. So that, when you think about it, that is a ton of mosquitoes. I don't even know how to estimate how many thousands of mosquitoes that is, but it's a lot of them. So all in all, my when I think about whether this was worth it or not, I think we paid, what was it, plus or minus $400 for this thing, which is a lot of money. But we were kind of desperate. We've tried a lot of other stuff, and we still had a bad mosquito year, even with this thing. So I've been thinking over whether it was worth it or not, and I don't think that it was worth it for just this one. I don't think it made a big enough of a dent to make it worth it. However, what I am open to trying, I think it's possible that one just was not enough for covering the area that we were trying to cover. They say like an acre, acre and a half, something like that. But I do think it's possible that here in our clearing, we were putting this kind of in the middle of the clearing under these trees and fairly close to our house. I think it's possible that there just weren't as many mosquitoes hanging out here, and you really want to get this as close to where the mosquitoes are hanging out as possible. So I am open to potentially getting one more of these at some point in time in the future and putting one on the edge of the woods over there and one on the edge of the woods over there, and seeing if maybe we're able to make a much bigger dent, because we did experiment a little bit with moving this over closer to the woods, and it did seem to me like it was picking up more of them. And the trouble is then if you only have one and you move it over to one edge of the woods, then you've got nothing happening over on the other side. So that's where I think the strategy of having two of these could be a winning strategy for if you have a larger area. So we'll see. Maybe we'll do that next spring, but I hope that helps you in deciding whether the mosquito magnet is a good fit for you. So yeah, you can try it and see how your mileage goes, but honestly, I think prevention is the best
that's really
cure,
key.
And then the fogger was the best thing for short-term knocking it down. That's what we've found anyhow. Maybe we'll get better results from the mosquito magnet this year. But
yeah, and hopefully attracting more swallows and bats will make a big difference.
that's
too.
huge, because when
that
they're
is
around,
really,
it's not as
mosquitoes
bad.
are not as bad.
That's
for
right.
sure.
That's right.
So
So anyhow, I hope that's helpful. Let us know in the comments what's worked for you with as mosquitoes in your area, because I know every area is a little different, and I'm sure there's lots of tips out there that we haven't tried. And hey, I'm up for it.
especially when it's really bad.
Yep. So well, y'all have a great rest of your week, and we'll see you next time. We say farewell, and so does Jack too.
Bye.
Bye now.